Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Break Thru U podcast. My name is Josh Rosales. I am the host of the Break Thru U podcast, and I am super excited to have a special guest with us this morning. And we're going to get into that here in a minute. But I want to say the Break Thru U podcast, we exist to help entrepreneurs connect the dots through the Break Thru U podcast. The Break Thru U podcast, we believe that 90% of what we challenge, the challenges that we face are us, right? If we can ever get through the mindset, 90% of the mindset, then we can go ahead and 10% of our body is going to follow. But it's crazy because 90% of the struggle in the fight is mindset. And so I'm super excited to have Mr. Neely on with us this morning. And we're going to really dive into some questions for those of you that are listening and watching. If you have any questions, definitely we want you to send those questions to us. Want you to be listening to our podcast on 24 different platforms and also on our YouTube channel. But without any further ado, we're going to get into the podcast. And I do want to shout out Ashley Gaylor. He's our sponsor for this podcast. Ashley Gaylor is All Things Insurance. His thing is really helping families set up for their financial needs and their goals. If you have any questions, I'm going to be putting Ashley Gaylor's information up, his phone number and his email address to email him for all your insurance needs. Definitely, we got to be protected. It's a topic that we don't really like to talk about, but it's a topic that we need to prepare for. Same thing with mortgages, right? I mean, it's people think they can't buy a house, they can't get a mortgage, but you never know until you sit down with Mr. Neely and find out. And so without any further ado, it is it's an honor and a privilege to have you on the podcast this morning, and I can't wait to dive into some questions and learn all about your journey and your story. How you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Josh.
No problem, Mark. Hey, so I want to dive into this podcast, and I just want to talk, get to know your story. I follow you on YouTube, social media, Instagram. I love your poses that you do with that hat and the glasses. Like they just like in the dark settings, like it just makes you like a superhero, like a Marvel comic. Like you stepped out of a Marvel comic book and you're just like pointing and like all kinds of things. I'm just like, man, this is like amazing. I have to like get Marvel to come out with a movie on you about the mortgage, like your superpower being the mortgage loan man. So really diving into this, what was your journey? Or what was your journey, Mark, and how did you end up in the real estate industry, and not just in the real estate industry, but being I look at you as a titan in the loan industry because like you're building your brand. People, you have a lot of respect on all across the board, and people come to you as the expert and all this stuff. How did you get there?
So it's been a long journey. I started out in the mid 90s at a small broker shop here in Nashville and learned the business. I learned how to get difficult deals done just by really kind of knowing my guidelines and how to go about getting exceptions approved. So I sort of just built a strong book of business, and that started, like I said, some years back. And then, we've had a lot of changes, not just in the industry, but in technology. And so that all has just led to where we are now today. I was actually listening to a podcast from Jeff Zimpfer. Jeff is a big guy in the mortgage world, in the real estate space, and has a podcast that is very successful. And he had Tom Ferry on, and Tom Ferry is a real estate coach. And Tom was talking about fading winners. And that resonated so much with me just because, what he was talking about was people that are sort of stuck in the way things have always been. They've had some success. They've had a good career, but they're sort of stuck. And I think everybody sort of gets to this stage just in life a lot of times, but particularly in this industry, or in whether you're in, when I say in this industry, I will regularly use mortgage and real estate kind of because I feel like we're kind of in the same boat. But whether it's a realtor or or a mortgage lender, if you're not staying in front of people in the way that they want to be stayed in front of, you're going to lose traction and lose momentum. And sure, your aunt, who's your favorite aunt's always going to call you, right? Or at least you hope. I guess we've all experienced the opposite of that as well. But the people that you've done a really good job for, if you're not staying in touch with them, it's just you're missing the boat. And so what I saw from Tom's speech, or for his talk rather, was just, if you're stuck doing things the old way, which just what he was referring to is just, using the phone, only calling. So phone is still great, right? You still got to have the phone. I think we'll always have telephones. However, back in the day, I mean, real estate office, I mean, all you had was just, phones, and then it became like a website. Well, now we learn that really your website is really just a landing page. It's really, the idea is to sort of get in front of people on a daily basis and the quickest and easiest way to do that is with short form content. So you have to have, good content, so forth, but that's the way to stay in touch with you. That's how I kind of got started. The last 6 months to a year is when I started sort of building my brand. I do a lot of things. Mortgage is one of, my businesses. But I'm also a real estate investor. And, I do some coaching. So I coach people. And so it's just sort of, the brand building is really just, your business card on the information superhighway, because, the old way would be just one-on-ones, handing out cards. Again, those are fine, but it's hard to scale that way, and it can wear you out. And I think you can have bigger impact and help more people by cultivating relationships. And I think that's where maybe the disconnect is for some people, is they think that, well, you're not going to get deals from, or you're not going to get clients from social media. And nothing can be further from the truth. But first of all, that's not really the point. The point is building a community and building a following, building a tribe, building people who want to, an audience who want to follow you and want to do business with you. So now, and that takes time. It takes months to build up and consistency. So, but yeah, I got started a while back and here we are today. And, we're got some other cool things coming up on the horizon. I'm going to start a private equity fund. We're in the process of that. So yeah.
That's great. That's awesome. You said something, you learned, I think this is key. And I think this is where, I think this is what sets you apart, sets your team apart, sets Carrie Ann apart, is you said, learn how to get difficult deals done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when others don't want to put in the extra effort to get a difficult deal done, Mark is there like, hey, give it to me. I'll get it done. And so by getting that done, you in turn building your brand that, hey, let's go to Mark, because Mark can get difficult deals done. The other thing too is that learning how to navigate changes. There's so many changes. Pre-COVID, it was one thing. Post-COVID, totally different. Like, it's like business plans, not only probably they used to, let's look at our business plan from 2020 and now 2021. Now it's like, hey, we need to revisit our business plan monthly, weekly, daily, sometimes even by the hour, because things just change. You got to learn how to pivot. You got to learn how to lean into things. Things are, like you said, the way things are done before aren't necessarily the way that they're done now. And they're not necessarily the way they were done a month ago. I mean, because everything is constantly changing. One thing that you have said, and I haven't heard this in years, is the information superhighway. There was a very, very popular radio host that would use that term all the time. And I was just like, man, that I haven't heard that in many, many years. Another question. If you were not in the mortgage industry, what would be your dream job, Mark?
Yeah. And this answer has changed probably through the years. Gosh, that's a great question. But I mean, it would really be a real estate investor. I do that now. But what my goal is to build up, passive income to where someday, the mortgage can be completely passed off, my business to someone else. I'll always be in the mortgage business to some degree. I don't know why I would ever leave it. I love teaching, but yeah, it would be, I think, a real estate investor, and within that would be having our own private equity fund.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, because ultimately it's about freedom for me.
Mm-hmm.
So the dream job, it's about having the freedom to do what it is you're best at, and you can have a team around you that can help you with the things and execute the things that you're not good at. So, that's the whole idea. Um, you know,
That's cool.
I was watching The Captain the other day. I'm not comparing myself to Derek Jeter, but I'm a lifelong Dodgers fan, but I'll tell you a little story. But my favorite baseball player of all time is Derek Jeter. And he has a special out on HBO, or 30 by 30 for 30 or something like that. But it's 9 parts. It's just really interesting about how, role players and what they do for a team. I mean, I really love the team concept. I mean, because it's, everybody sort of pushing towards one goal. I mean, I love football, 12 guys or 11 guys pushing down the field against 11 other guys, and I think with the Derek Jeter thing, what resonated with me was, he's such a leader, and he didn't lead. He could have, he didn't have the stats that say like Alex Rodriguez had. But I tell you one thing, Alex Rodriguez would trade places with Derek Jeter in a heartbeat, and the money and all. And Alex made way more money than Derek. And the reason why I would say is because Derek won, and winners win. And Derek won all the time. He played 4 games out of 20 to over 2,000 games. He played in exactly 4 games in which the Yankees were out of playoff contention. So I just love the fact that, he got guys to buy in to their role on the team in an effort for the team to advance, and so it's losing yourself for the sake of the team. And I think that's huge. I mean, because as long as there's people on your team that are succeeding, and even if they're going to advance out away from your team, you want to be a part of that, right?
Exactly.
I'm a big believer in not burning bridges, just for that very reason.
So my next question is the real estate industry, the housing market is very competitive. I sometimes think it's like very oversaturated with so many realtors, and everyone's competing for business. I think in this, and not just real estate, but in a lot of different industries. And I think if you're not careful, you can get left behind, or if you're not staying on top of your game, you can get left behind. So question: how does Mark Neely stay sharp and competitive in an industry where there's so many individuals that are doing the same thing? I believe you got to be sharpening your axe, every day. And if you're not sharpening your axe, you allow your axe to become dull, and then people forget about you. How do you stay relevant? How do you stay sharp? How do you stay, ahead of the game in the industry that you're in?
So technology, one, is what I would say. So, but really, I think I use technology to try to, to make things go faster. So my clients, so they save time. So it means like fast pre-approvals, that sort of thing. And after we get them pre-approved, they're able to download a mortgage mobile app and use it to calculate quick payments while they're out shopping. And then just how we stay in touch with clients. We provide like an interactive home value search. So a lot of people spend time on Zillow, right? So we get a lot of, I have a lot of agents that may miss out on a repeat client because they weren't able to keep up with when their client was actually searching. So we have a live interactive, once they enroll in our app, it shows them a home value report month over month. And so we get a huge rate of engagement from this because people are wanting to know. It tells them to a T, like what their house is worth. It also knows their mortgage amount. And it's also, so it tells them how much equity they have. And they're able to determine real quickly just by looking at this report, if where they stand for perhaps a possible move. So I use a lot of technology. The other big thing that I see today that I've become painfully aware of is, I, like a lot of people, needed some sales skills to be polished. Today's buyer is not the same, or today's consumer is not the same as 10 or 20 years ago. And so I think the way people make decisions, it's all based on what questions are we asking. If we're not asking the right questions, then the whole process becomes kind of wonky. And the old way was, uncover the needs, present the product, that's the solution. Now it's more of asking questions about where they are, where they want to be, and talking about that gap between, and what's it going to take to get there. And if they're open to a solution that we may have, and if they are, then you can present, then you're asking the right questions again, as opposed to just trying to hammer a square peg into a round hole for a hard close. And I think that people don't want to be hard closed anymore. I mean, I think that people buy on emotion, and we all do. And so the key is finding out what people really want, what people, what is going to take them to get to see where they are now and where they want to be, and what's causing that gap. And so it sounds kind of maybe trite for like a mortgage, but it's not just a mortgage. I mean, it's someone's whole financial plan, because the first home, if you do it right, can be the catalyst for future wealth. I mean, to do some house hacking in the front. So like the very first thing you want to try to teach people is buy a home that's buy a home that's multi-unit, live in one part, rent out the others. Now you've got somebody paying your note for you, sell that house, or keep it, use down payment for the next one. You can live in it for 1 year, then you can move out. So now you started to build a portfolio. I know people just like myself that started out that way, that, it's an easy way to become a millionaire in a few years. I mean, by buying and selling homes, you can get a low down payment, right? 3.5% down. You can buy a 2-3 unit property with FHA, have somebody live on the other side, pay the payments. So I think just getting people to the way I stay ahead and the cut is really just communication, staying in touch with people from really creative ways, using technology, and then just making sure that they understand that I'm here for them. I mean, in sales skills, I mean, it's changed, it's more asking questions, being a neutral party, let's analyze the problem together, and it's a neutral tone. So a lot of tonality, I think, is needed. And there's just a lot of bad salespeople out there. I mean, on both sides of the desk, whether it be mortgage or real estate. And really, you notice it now, because when you notice it is when you buy something, you have a great experience. You're like, well, what actually went well there? And it's really just the person listening and asking the right questions to you, and so now it helps you when you're on the other side, when you're, the rep, and you've got the client, that you can sort of ask those right questions and get to the bottom of their needs.
Mark, you said something that was that just stood out. There's a lot of bad salespeople out there, and that is the absolute truth. There's a lot of people out there that don't know what they're doing. There's a lot of consumers that get tricked into, not really tricked, but they don't know, and they go with this person, and they end up getting the short end of the stick. And I think that brings me to my next question for you is mentorship. I think you can set aside those that are like really, really good at their job, and you can look at them and it's not a job to them. It's like buying a house is probably someone's biggest purchase that they'll ever make. And having the right person on your side that's going to give you the right information and provide just a wealth of knowledge to you to help you make that right decision comes with mentorship. So my next question is, how important has mentorship been to you along your journey to get to where you are? And how important is mentorship for people that are getting into the industry and just to help develop themselves? Because I see it in two ways. If somebody doesn't have a mentor, they learn on their own. And yes, you got YouTube. Yes, you have all these other platforms, but to have a mentor that can really help you and guide you through the pitfalls that maybe they made or others made, to really help you fine tune your skills and make you be a better person all around. How has mentorship played a role in your life and made you who you are right now? And then why is it so important that others have a mentor, seek out a mentor? And then I'll throw this in there. How does someone find a mentor?
Yeah. I mean, mentorship and coaching is a must. I mean, and really for most all areas of life. So I have a mentor or a coach for business, fitness, my spiritual life, um, financial planning. So, and this doesn't mean just like a financial planner, but someone that's, a mentor, right? So like moving big rocks. And it's just so much growth can come from people, walking with you, having people walk with you where they've walked before, right? So a mind shift for me was I look at paying for mentors and coaching sort of like paying for tuition to learn and grow as a person, but it's tuition for like real life stuff, right? Frontline shit, and you know what I mean? So like, right now, my mentor, I have my spiritual mentor is on hospice. And so I'm learning something that we're all going to have to learn, which is how to die and how to die well. And what does that look like? And so when I go and visit him, his mind's all there. But he's going to be gone soon. Right. And I've looked to him he's been like a dad to me for 15, 20 years and, vacations and stuff. And, the things that you get in life by having someone there with you, it's just invaluable. I mean, you look throughout history, even like just, people had mentors, historically. I mean, even in the Bible, you had people that were, Paul and Timothy and these people and that were mentoring. And so I think it's also, for me, it's important to mentor others. So I have a good group of people and I have around me, and I have people that I mentor, guys. But if you're not paying for mentorship, you're really, or coaching, you're missing out. It's the accountability. It's the lack of judgment. It's also the encouragement that you give, that from an outsider looking in that can see and speak into you and speak wisdom. And so, I mean, without it, I was really missing out. And there've been times where maybe throughout my career where I maybe a season where I didn't have a coach and I noticed there just wasn't as much growth then. And it's just exponentially more when you have the coach or the mentor because of all the things I mentioned.
Yeah, and I think it's so super important. I mean, mentorship is a must, and also having the right people around you, like you just briefly said in your statement, having the right people around you also make the difference as well, right? It's like
Yeah.
who is around you. The Bible talks about iron sharpens iron. It's like
Yeah.
who is that other piece of iron that you're sharpening yourself against? Who is that's making you be better, that's challenging you every day? When you get up in the mirror, the the one person that you gotta fight against is yourself
Yeah.
every day. And it's like it's so important to have mentorship and to have those around you that are going to challenge you, makes you be better. Sometimes you just need a kick in the backside to like say, hey, let's go, you're slacking. We got a lot to accomplish. Let me ask you this. So where are we right now for those that are watching and for those that are listening? Really quick, I want to take a quick break. I want to let everyone know that this podcast is sponsored by Ashley Gaylor with insurance, and Ashley Gaylor is all things life insurance. I'll be putting his email address and his phone number up. If you're Ashley's another great individual. If you don't know him, talk to him, email him, call him for some great life insurance. Mark, when we're looking at the market, the housing market right now, we see that the housing market is just going through just some crazy stuff. Now, I personally, looking at it, I'm not an expert in this field. I see that Nashville and Middle Tennessee has some really great industries that are kind of like, I think of them as safety nets for this recession or inflation. That maybe the rest of the country, they may be going through it, but because maybe they don't have the industries and the strength of the major industries that we have here in Middle Tennessee. Being where you are right now and the outlook, where are we right now in the mortgage industry, and where do you see the mortgage industry going in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, mortgage or housing? Do you the housing industry or kind of what we're doing? Yeah, I mean, like, the mortgage industry, obviously we're going to follow, housing, but I think for the Nashville area, I mean, I think we're going to continue to see inventory issues. And so I think from a market standpoint, that will continue to increase prices. I think we're in a soft spot right here for about 6 months to where we're probably going to see somewhere 5% decrease in prices or, across the board. But that does not mean that decline, like that prices or that property values are going down. We've just got too many people that need homes and not enough homes built. And that problem is not going to be solved anytime soon. And I really think it's important for those of us in the industry to really get that message across. And I wonder, I think some are maybe afraid to get that message across because they're not sure if it's true. And no one knows 100% what's going to happen, right? But barring a black swan event, the math says, and all of the analysts say, whether you're dealing with CoreLogic, Fannie, Freddie, all of these analysts, they're showing a 5% appreciation rate for the next 5 years. Now that's year over year, right? So that sounds like a still good thing. It's just not, we're kind of past the 18% mark. But what you've got to understand is that people, just like going back to before, they act on emotion. So right now, what you're having is literally someone that's thinking has not found the house that they want, or now it's time to go out looking. Either way, they're not pulling the trigger because they just watched their neighbor sell their house, 2 months ago, 3 months ago for over list with 10 offers, and he sold it in 48 hours. And so now they're wondering why their exact house, or maybe even a little bit better, is not getting the same price and it's taking longer. But what we got to understand is that was not a normal market before, right? The last 2 years, we had a pandemic thrown in there and all of this. And so it's a lot of people buying quickly over list, and you've got institutional buyers. But what's happening, the institutional buyers are now pulling back some because of rates. So interest rates going up over the last couple of months has caused a cooling of demand. But a cooling of demand just means demand is hot. It's cooled off from red hot to a little, mostly, still hot. And that doesn't mean, and I think a lot of people will think that, or is this 2008? But see, everything is different then. I mean, 2008, you had a complete demise of an entire industry called the subprime market. And the subprime market, the reason why people foreclosed, they didn't have equity in their homes back then. So it was very easy to walk away, and the foreclosure rates were rampant. You had a surplus in homes back in 08 and 09. Now we have a massive shortage of homes, and people have an average of about $150,000 in equity in their home nationwide. Now I know that's a big average, right? But people aren't going to walk away from that, is the point. And so that's good news for all of us, because even though we're in the middle of the tunnel, there's those of us who've been through a tunnel before that we know that the light is just around the corner, as opposed to, well, are we going to be in this tunnel for a long time and our house is going to go down and values, should we buy a house now if we're going to move in 2 or 3 years and all these things. So the good news is there is there are deals to be had. There are good deals to be had out there right now, because the same house that you were looking for, so that same person who's concerned about whether they're not going to get what they want for their house now because what their neighbor, the thing is, the house that they want out there is also going to be less, because it's going to be less than what it was 2 or 3 months ago. So now's the time to get to buy a home, that's tens of thousands of dollars less than what you would have paid for it just a few months ago. And, but you've got some softening of the market right now. And I think those who stay diligent and realize, a lot of millionaires are made during the recessions. They just are. And the reason why is because they get liquid and they buy things. They know that deals are going to come along because of emotion, because people are buying in this frenzy, right? But you got to look at supply and demand still. Frenzy is one thing that is maybe unwarranted, right? There was a lot of froth in the market in 08 and 09. People still buying houses, paying way over. It was, but it was based on greed. So we can get into all that. People probably seen the movie with Brad Pitt, The Big Short or whatever. But at the end of the day, now you don't have that. You have a shortage of homes, and the math is just that right now you're going to have a little bit of, we're just not going to have 20% appreciation, 18%, right now. Now there's going to be some cities that are going to be hit hard. You mentioned Nashville. You've got the skyline behind you. I've born and raised here, lived here all my life. And we have avoided some of the massive dips that you see in the coastal regions. Probably like you probably have friends in coastal regions, on the West Coast or New York, DC, especially like South Florida. Yeah, but you've got to realize that this was a big run up the last few years. So it's not like coming down a little bit is a bad thing. It's just, it's leveling off some where the growth is just not as fast. And that is by design. You had people overcharging for everything, right? Gas to, people were charging. So inflation was rampant. And so they raised rates to sort of slow that down. But we all know, that's been in the industry and been through several cycles, that you're going to have these cycles and rates will end up coming back down at some point. There'll be a big opportunity for people to refinance. This kind of goes back to, how I feel like that we're different, because we've got an advantage over others because we've got a proprietary, privately funded, non-traditional loan that's rate tolerant. So it's a powerful financial tool that clients use to pay off their home in 9.2 years on average without changing their budget at all. And while they're still maintaining access to their equity dollars for a full 30 years of the loan. So it's a transformative financial instrument that we brought to the U.S. market back in 2005. It's called the all-in-one loan. I focus a lot on that. That's probably something I should have mentioned at the beginning, but I really focus on this non-traditional loan because it saves people so much money versus a traditional 30-year fix. Now, it's not for everyone. Some people we have to say no. They're not as cash flow positive. So if someone's living check to check, it's not going to work for them. But for those of us who are not living check to check, it's truly a money hack to pay tons in less interest while still maintaining access to their equity. Because I think a lot of conversations I have with people that are in the 40s and 50s, peers for me, should I pay off my house, Mark? Or gosh, I kind of want to use some of the equity to maybe buy an investment property. Should I get a second, home equity line? What do I do? Well, what we do is we go in and pay off the first that they have now, and maybe they have an equity line, or we give them a line on this new first lien that they can borrow more if they want to. So they can still use this loan for tapping in their equity dollars to be able to buy more cash or more cash flow producing assets, income producing assets. And I think that's the thing I try to really teach people, is that if you look at the average bank account of a millionaire, I think people would be surprised that a lot of millionaires do not have $1 million in the bank. And the reason why is because it's just, it's not a good place to have your money. It's out working for them. Right now, obviously, people that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, that's one thing, but there are lots of millionaires that are in that, worth $3 to $10 million that just not going to have a million. And I think that's surprising to a lot of people. But there's a good reason for that. If the money's out working for you, then you're better off, because you're losing money with inflation, 8.5%. And keep in mind, inflation numbers don't include housing or fuel. When you add those in, let's be honest, we're all experiencing about 18 to 20% inflation when you add all that in. But does that help? I mean, I think that's where I think we really differentiate ourselves with, really the way that we talk to people and get them, the way that we navigate through these waters and get people, more liquid, and get them, people are able to pay off their home sooner. They're able to retire sooner. They're able to pay for kids' college or pay for elderly parents, because now they've mitigated all this interest that they would have paid. And it's just really by combining two products, a checking account and a first mortgage. So when you do that, it's two products in one. Like I said, we pioneered bringing this to the U.S. and it's not a new concept. But it was new to the U.S. in 2005. But a lot of people call them sweep accounts, or they're called, what's the other one? Sweep accounts and offset mortgages. So an offset mortgage is just a mortgage where you offset a big portion of the interest. So people have been using this strategy for years. And some people charge $3,000, $3,500 to teach people this strategy. And they're sending the loan to CMG, they're sending us the client. So what better way to educate people on the best way to save money, but by mitigating their biggest expense that they'll ever have, which is mortgage interest, which is a big impediment to people being able to move on with their lives and do the things that they want to do later in life. That's the reason why. Yeah. So it's a powerful thing. And, now you got people that kind of getting into, reverse mortgages and things like that. And why is that? Why is there a need for that? Because people now have decided at that point, well, they want to get money out, of their house. So in this way, what we're doing is we're just not changing anything. You're just, other than how you bank, and by banking differently, your mortgage gets paid down faster. So you're not doing anything differently. You're just giving legs to your dollars that normally the bank just has. I mean, I don't know if people realize this, but the bank makes anywhere from 400 to 1,300% on our money. So they loan it out several times. It's not like they'll gladly give us, let us they'll borrow our money, right? And give us a quarter or less percent, 0.1%, because they're going to turn around and take the money that we've lent them. Because that's all we're doing, is we're lending the bank our money. When you put a deposit in there, you're giving them the money, and they're giving you a return. The return is just, right, it's very small, so you don't really get much out of it. What if you could turn the tables on them, and every time you make a deposit, it's paying off your mortgage, but you can get it back out if you want to. So now all of a sudden, if you've got a bank account that's paying 5% on your money, if that's what the yield is on the mortgage. So that's more powerful than someone who has a 3% or 2.5% mortgage rate. And I can show people all day long that I can make, if you're cash flowing enough, I can get your house paid off with an effective rate of about 1 to 1.5%, just by using your checking account and the cash flow dollars that are just sitting idly behind. By the way, you can always go back and get them out anytime you want. And this is a 30-year loan. So it's something that I'm very passionate about. And I'm on a crusade to teach people, about, this sort of financing, this alternative financing, where they can save more money and be financially free sooner.
And I can definitely tell you have a passion for that. No, that is awesome. So so how does someone get in contact with you and CMG, and then what are the what does somebody look for, or what questions should they be asking to make sure that they line up with the right lender?
Yeah, I mean, the most common mistakes I see, people not doing their research or vetting their loan officer. I definitely recommend checking third-party reviews like Google and Zillow. I've always tried to make sure that my clients give reviews, honest reviews, that sort of thing. So I think vet them. You have to understand that a lot of realtors, a lot of mortgage people out there, kind of fake it till they make it. And they may not know, they may put on a good front, but you got to look at their production. Are they actually producing, or is this something that they're not really, it's just kind of a part-time gig or something like that. I mean, this is my career. I've been doing this for 20 plus years and been in the top 1% of my field nationally all that time. So I think people, they want to feel cared for, and, the communication is key with that. But, I think that's the biggest thing, is just getting people to realize that, you do need to you don't want to be dealing with somebody that's a yahoo out there. You want to be dealing with somebody that's, you're dealing with the biggest purchase of your life. You want to have your dream team with you, so that you can kind of get to the place that you want to be without all the hiccup and all the rigmarole, But people can reach me on IG at Mark Neely Home. Neely, so it's Mark, then Neely, Neely, and then Home. Or you can look me up on Facebook, Mark Neely. That's probably the best way. Instagram, Mark Neely Home, or you can email me at mark@markneelyteam.com. But we'll be glad to help, and thrilled to help in any way we can.
One thing that I would
to bounce some things off. People call me just to bounce things off of me. Like, does this make sense? And then, I'm just at the point in my career. I'm not do it for the money. I do it to help people,
Exactly. I heard it say that when sales pressure is high, that means relationships are low. And when sales pressure is high, relationships are low. And then when relationships are high, sales pressure is low. And that is so true. It's like, it's all about building relationships. It's all about people. People don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care, and really putting them first, and really what's in it for them. Not it's what it's in it for me, what's in it 100%. For them. And that's what, I just really believe. And if you can build your skill set around that, it's going to be great. The other thing I recommend for those that are watching and those that are listening is that go out there and watch some of Mark's YouTube videos. He got some great content out there. I was actually watching, I think I watched 3 or 4 of them this week, and you got some great content. I mean, I was like, wow, this is like not just saying that because we're on the podcast here, but like, you really got some good content. So for those that are watching and listening, go out there and watch some of Mark's videos. I mean, I think that just spend time. Time is on your side. Spend the time listening, watching, getting more information, and then make that decision. And like Mark said, for those of you that are watching and listening, give Mark a call, bounce some ideas off of him, email him, set up a time just to talk through some things. And so, definitely Mark Neely is, for what you've done in the 6 months to a year, building your brand is incredible. And I am honored to have you on the podcast this morning. And for those that are watching and listening, again, reach out to Mark on social media, Facebook, Instagram, got some YouTube videos. Also email him. Mark, if you could really, if you could just let people know how to get a hold of you, your email address and possible phone number, or just so they have it again.
567-8882, direct line, 567-8882. Mark at Mark Neely Team, TEAM.com. Neely is Neely. And then follow me at Mark Neely Home on IG. And then that's where all the videos are. There'll be some longer ones on YouTube, so find me there. But love to connect and share and educate. I love teaching, and so I'm here for you.
Definitely. Well, for all of those that are watching and listening, definitely reach out to Mark. Mark, thank you again for being on the podcast. Really appreciate your insight, appreciate your passion to help people. And I can really tell through the podcast that you just have a passion and a desire and a drive to really help people not only pay off their homes, but make the right decision and be an advocate for them, especially when it comes to making the largest purchase of their life. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Josh. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.